when I was in high school, that's when I worked in the print shop. Set type by hand, and I worked at a grocery store on Saturday. After I graduated from high school, I went to the normal and industrial school, and it was all methods for teaching. But then I got a call from the superintendent in North Dakota, and they'd had a teacher at a school, but she left. So they wondered if I would take the school. And I did. It was 25 miles from home, from Pollock. It was way out on the edge of the Missouri River. That's another thing. We had to get to school and start the fire ourselves. Mm-hmm. We did our own janitor work, of course. One thing I liked about the rural schools, you were your own boss. 39 in all 8 grades. But you know, there was only 2 or 3 kids in a grade, or I mean, just a few. They were all of a German descent. So they didn't speak English until they came to school. And I boarded about 3 miles from the school. I had to walk that every day, back and forth, except in the winter when this little creek was frozen over. I could go across the ice, and then it was only about 2.5 miles. And sometimes the coyotes, or coyotes as they say out here, would follow me. It bothered me a lot at first, but my mother said, "Oh, just hammer on your lunch pail." But they never bothered. If I stopped, then they'd stop. And our teachers pay $45 a month. We were about 6 miles from the Standing Rock Indian Reservation. And so they did a lot of trading in the town. I was another settlement that they called La Grace. And in the winter time, when the river was frozen over, the Indians came over there to trade. And my father and his brothers had a store there also. And so Sitting Bull and his nephew used to come there to trade, and exclaimed that my grandmother sewed a button on Sitting Bull's coat. But my aunt at that time was about 12 years old, and he thought she was the prettiest thing because she had such bright blue eyes. But then it wasn't long after that Sitting Bull was captured, taken prisoner.
Good night, until we meet again. Adios.
I'm going to talk about, yes.
Well, he lived about 20 miles from us. He started with just a small little concertina, or whatever you call it, wasn't it? Then I think he talked his dad into letting him send away for an accordion. Some of the first playing that he ever did was right in our community.
And now
Yes, I even danced with him once.
adios, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. Good night.
In 1933, this car was brought to the agent that sold Fords. But the minute I saw that, I thought, oh, I surely would like to have that car. It was stolen out of the agency. They never found it. And finally some farmer found it in a ravine, and it was covered with tumbleweeds. Well, about that same time, you know, this famous Dillinger, John Dillinger, was in the country, and he was in South Dakota. When the car was brought back to the agency, they called it the Dillinger because they were running liquor from Canada. Well, after it got back and was fixed up, I finally bought it. It got the name of the Dillinger, and it was called that ever after. That cemetery has been there all that time. Then my father's brother went to a town about 100 and something miles away to work. And he became very ill, and the brother died. He was buried right on the property of my grandmother Griebert, and it was donated by my great-grandmother Griebert because she lost 2 grandchildren and buried them there, and then that started it. And then when it came to 1919 and that awful influenza came along, and every day there was somebody who went to the cemetery. So we started thinking about we ought to be someplace else. And my mother had always wanted to come to Washington. And in 1936, we came out to Washington to visit. What way should we go? Well, the best way to do is to go on Highway 2. So that's what we did. We went up into North Dakota and came away across on Highway 2, which took us through Wenatchee. So then we came out here and we picked berries and earned enough, went back home and decided we were going to move to Washington. And the next year we came out here to stay.